Good Thursday afternoon, everybody. I'm meteorologist Tim Pandajis here with your tropical update. Well, we've got Tropical Storm Nicole again, but since we last spoke yesterday, it did peak as expected as a Category 1 hurricane just ahead of landfall along the east coast of Florida. That occurred early this morning. Today is Thursday, November the 10th, 2022. Here's a look at landfall location right around or just south of Vero Beach along the east coast of Florida. At its peak, it was a Category 1 storm with 75 miles per hour. Landfall occurred around 3 a.m. Eastern time. This is the 2 o'clock a.m. advisory Central time here as a Category 1 storm. Since then, though, it has dramatically weakened, but its wind field is still very, very large. Now, I want to show you a really interesting stat here. So we're looking at our two landfalling hurricanes in Florida in 2022. Of course, we had Ian that wreaked havoc along the southwest coast of Florida in the Fort Myers area, then moved over land, exited into the Atlantic. And then here's our secondary landfalling hurricane, a Category 1, much weaker, larger wind field, Nicole, 2022, okay? 43 days apart of landfalls here, okay? Now let's go back in time 18 years to 2004. Very, very similar. Look at the two hurricane tracks here. These were both major hurricanes, by the way. We had Charlie that made landfall along the southwest coast of Florida, relatively the same area near Fort Myers. And then we had Hurricane Jean make landfall just a little bit farther to the south of where Nicole made landfall in 2004. Guess the time spread between the two landfalls. 43 days. Very, very interesting. Similar storm tracks and that same window of time between the two. 18 years apart. It's weird Florida coincidences there and how history likes to repeat itself. Here's a look at visible satellite imagery. This storm arguably looks better now than it did earlier in time when it was on its way to becoming a hurricane, because it had some dry air to the south of it, a little bit asymmetrical looking. Now it's looking more like a hurricane, I'd argue there, even though its center is still over land, and overall it is on a weakening trend as it builds north over land away from its fuel source. The warm ocean waters here. The stats on Nicole now, 45 mile per hour winds, down 30 miles per hour from its peak at 75. It is picking up on its forward speed, though, moving at 15 miles per hour now, and pressure starting to come up as well. 988, I think at its lowest, it was in the low 980s. All right, here's a look at its wind field as of the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center. Still a large wind field. You can find tropical storm force winds stretching out to the northeast of the storm center, still 300 miles. So we're talking tropical storm force winds making it all the way up to Charleston and all the way to the southwest, well offshore. So a little more contracted than it was yesterday, but still very, very notable. Here's a look at recent wind gusts all throughout the state of Florida. On top of that, wave heights. Yesterday, as it was strengthening, we saw 30-foot wave heights, 10-foot wave heights here in the Gulf of Mexico, close to 20-foot wave heights along the Atlantic, well off the east coast of Florida there. But wind gusts right now relatively under tropical storm force. You saw the sustained winds maximum were at 45, so it makes sense that we're starting to see these numbers come down a bit too. But stretching all the way to the north, Savannah getting 30 mile per hour wind gusts, Alma at 29, Jacksonville at 33. Again, that wind field is still huge. Here's a look at wind gusts since midnight that I came across. Cape Canaveral clocked a wind speed just under hurricane strength, 73 miles per hour. Same out in Melbourne. Daytona Beach clocked one at 70 miles per hour. St. Petersburg, 62 miles per hour. Jacksonville at 61. There may have been some higher ones in there, but these are the ones that I've come across so far. And again, this is just since midnight. They may have been a little bit stronger just before that. All right, here's the ongoing track as we go forward in time of Tropical Storm Nicole. By this evening, 45-mile-an-hour winds, again moving over the panhandle of Florida, lifting north into Georgia, and then moving pretty much along the spine of the Appalachians for the next couple of days, weakening significantly, becoming a remnant low. However, the next threat is going to be areas to the east of this storm track, dealing with a pronounced severe weather threat and a tornado threat as well. Here's how it looks like on future track going forward in time. Here again, lifting to the north, pretty much moving along that forecast track from the National Hurricane Center. A lot of rain here, but focus your attention on all areas to the east of the storm center. Notice these bands of moisture lifting off of the Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic Ocean, building on shore, and these are the areas we tend to find cells that begin to rotate and can easily put down a tornado. They interact with the friction of the land. We've already got that overall circulation from the storm system itself makes it a little bit easier to put down some tornadoes as this lifts off to the north. And look at this widespread rain Friday night through much of New England and the Northeast, even from the mid-Atlantic leading into the weekend. So storm threats, Storm Prediction Center has, out of a 5-leveled system of severe weather threats, set a level 2 in the yellow from Wilmington down to Charleston, Savannah, all the way down to Jacksonville, Florida. And then into tomorrow, that does lift north in all coastal locations of North Carolina and even into southeastern and central Virginia, into portions of Maryland as well, of that level 2 threat. At this hour, there's already a tornado watch that's been put out for that threat area today, and that does include the Savannah area into southern South Carolina and all of eastern, southeastern portions of Georgia, right on through this evening and overnight. Rainfall from here on, looking at a general 2 to 5 inches, pretty much all along the mountainous locations through the Blue Ridge and the Appalachians, stretching all the way up into New York, western portions of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, western Carolinas, up through this upcoming weekend. So rain, flash flooding threat is there, but not really exacerbated. Just a rainy next couple of days along the eastern seaboard. All right, that's the latest on Nicole. Again, on a weakening trend, the severe weather threat is what we're going to focus on next. But until next time, if we have another storm, maybe, who knows? The next name on the list, by the way, is Owen. Hopefully we don't get there. 14 name storms so far this year. You can find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm also on TikTok at TimTalkWeather. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you next time.